today we're not really going to focus, all in on the SEO aspects of Google Tag Manager. We'll talk a little bit about how it can help, but really wanted to show people in tonight's presentation how to leverage Google Tag Manager on WordPress from more of a holistic perspective. It's going to focus a lot on on digital marketing, but it also have some references to SEO. We'll also talk a little bit about how it can help performance. So I've tried to make this really well-rounded, and we'll even cover a few different scenarios with a live demo, and I'll show you how to navigate through different setups and so forth. I will have a section at the end that kind of deals with some FAQs. So there are some things that, in my experience of giving talks about Google Tag Manager, that things seem to come up, and I've noticed some themes, so I've tried to address those in that section. But I do have some time built into tonight's presentation to take some questions if you have any. So with that, I think we will jump in. First things first, if you like tonight's slides, and this link will be at the end as well, you can grab them at expanderdigital.com/slides. It'll be all the way at the bottom in the 2020 section. So if you want to follow along, you can do that by going there, or if you want to download them or access them later on, you can go there as well. They'll be there for you. Okay. So what is Google Tag Manager? Hopefully, if you're here tonight, you have some familiarity with it, but if you're here and you've never used the tool before, that's awesome too. This is Google's definition straight from their website of what Tag Manager is. And they say that it's tag management made easy. Manage all of your website tags without editing code. Google Tag Manager delivers simple, reliable, easily integrated tag management solutions for free. What does that mean exactly? It's because it's long, and if you're not familiar with Google Tag Manager, it might not mean a lot to you. But essentially what this means is that at a super high level, when you are adding new tags to your website, you can do it with Tag Manager easily. So what that means is, if you have to add a pixel or a snippet of code, every time you have to do that, you have to go into your website, you have to go into your CMS, you have to find the file that you need to add that to. And so those things take time, especially if you're doing multiple different activities from multiple different systems. The idea with Tag Manager is that instead of having to do that over and over and over again, you have a one-stop shop system that lets you do that at scale and with ease. And that's really what Tag Manager lives to do. Who should use Tag Manager, right? This is a tool that I think when some people hear it, they get intimidated, or some people might say, oh, I'm not a marketer, I don't really need it. Or a developer might say, well, it's a marketing tool, I don't really need that, I'm not a marketer. So I think a lot of different specialists can leverage Google Tag Manager. I think it's great for marketers. I think that's probably the primary audience when Google designed this tool to really go after marketers. I think probably the next one, to be honest, this might surprise some of you, are clients. Think about this for a second. Every time you have to add a Facebook pixel or a Twitter pixel or some kind of pixel to the site, or you need to add some kind of snippet, what does that client need to do? They need to hire a developer. Developer needs to spend time to go into the CMS. If they run into problems, that's more time, it's more cost. And so the idea with Tag Manager is that I install Tag Manager once, and then it's easy enough for a webmaster to be able to manage the tags right from within the tool. I think it is helpful for developers, and we'll talk a little bit about how it can be helpful, because I think there are some benefits there. But for me, I haven't really found a particular specialist or a client that can't benefit from it. One of the things that's really great is that you can do collaborations with it, and we'll get to that in a second. But I think it's a very it's a tool that can be used by a lot of different audiences. So I don't think there's like one size fits all, or it's designed for one particular person in mind. Why you should use it. So again, kind of going back to the scenario where you have a client that's doing a lot of different activities and they need to add a lot of different things to their site. Sometimes what will happen is the developer, might want to go into the code and add that pixel, but maybe there's some kind of need that the client needs to be able to manage that too. Maybe they have to use a plugin solution. One of the things that's great about Tag Manager is you can use fewer plugins on your website. And I think that's a really big win for SEOs, for developers, for clients. I think that's a big win overall. Optimizing website performance, again, fewer plugins means better performance, but I think there are other benefits to the way that Tag Manager handles things. So I think there's some ways that you can optimize your performance for speed. I also think that, generally, I think when people think of website performance, they think of, speed. But I think organization is really good too. So my career is in content strategy and SEO. And so when I have my content strategy roles, or when I was in content strategy roles, lots of times I was really trying to help enterprises and businesses organize information. And I think Tag Manager can really help with that too. And I think that kind of falls into the website performance bucket. And the other thing that I think is really nice is that you can collaborate with clients and specialists. So if you need to bring other people into a project, Tag Manager makes it very easy to do that. You can add users to the platform. You can add clients to the platform. That's something I do regularly. If you're a developer who has worked with a third-party marketer for some kind of project, maybe you've had this happen. You work with a marketer for just a one-time project, and then their project is done, and then the client goes to try and gain access to their tool, and they can't. That's because of permissions problems. I think that's maybe the marketer didn't know to add the client or whatever. I think Tag Manager makes it really easy to add clients into the tool, so they have access, they have control, they have the keys to their kingdom, if you will, with Tag Manager. So I really like it for both the fact that I can bring in other specialists. If I need to bring in developers into the tool, I can do that very easily, and I can also grant access to clients very easily too. So those are some of the reasons I really like the tool. I talk about this a little bit on a blog post, but I just want to keep things high level as to why, if your client's like, why should we do this? These are some things that you can share with them. Okay, so we're going to move into the how-to section, and this is really where I want to spend a lot of time tonight, because when I give talks, I really like showing tactics. I'm not a person that likes waiting 35 minutes to get to the point that the presenter's trying to make. I really like just let's roll up our sleeves and get in there and teach me some things. Give me some things that I can use and share with my clients and really help drive value through the services I'm providing. So I'm going to dive into the tutorial section here. So how do you get started with Tag Manager? It's really easy. Just go to the Tag Manager website. And when you go there, you'll select Start for Free. You'll enter in your Google account credentials and complete the sign up process. It's really easy. This is the URL. So again, the slides link will be at the end of the deck. Showed it at the beginning. It'll be at the end too. But if you need a reference, it'll be here. It's just marketingplatform.google.com/about/tag manager. When you go to that URL, you'll see this particular hero image at the top. Again, you see the Start for Free. You just click on that. It's going to ask you to sign in with your Google credentials. So if you're using Gmail, just use your Gmail address. And then it's going to drop you right into the tool here. And you can see that this particular account is blank, completely blank, because there's nothing created in there yet. And that's what you will see when you first log in. What you then do is create an account. It'll ask you some basic information. The tool will ask you for some basic information, which you just fill out. It will only take like a couple minutes. And then that's it. You'll get logged in to Google Tag Manager, and this will be the first thing that you see. And the first step you need to take to leverage Google Tag Manager is install it on your site. WordPress makes this pretty easy. I think it makes it pretty easy depending on the theme that you're using. For the most part, I think it's really easy to use and very straightforward getting it installed. But it depends. It depends. What all you have to do really is add 2 snippets of code. One snippet needs to go in the head section of your site, and the other snippet needs to go in the body section of the site. And that, it shows you that right here. Just put it in the head and the body. And it does say to try and put it as high in the head as possible. I've only run into maybe a couple of scenarios where this was a problem, where I put it right before the tag closed, and I had some troubles getting you know, the tag to be verified. So I really do recommend that you do listen to the tool in this regard and try to put it as high in the head as you can. Same thing with the body. I would say as soon as the body tag opens, just put the snippet in there and you'll be good to go. And then once you're in there, and you can actually close this out too. If you were to hit OK, you'll just get dropped in here to the interface. If you want to get back to those 2 snippets, you see the container is right here. You just click on that link and you'll see those 2 snippets again. You can just grab the code there. So this is the interface that you're going to see when you get into Tag Manager. So that's pretty much it. I mean, honestly, if you're pretty quick about it, you can get it set up in less than 5 minutes. It's very, very straightforward. Now, once you start adding tags, that's where time, I think, is probably going to, you know, catch up with you, and you're probably going to spend more time trying to get your tags right. But getting Google Tag Manager set up initially in WordPress is pretty straightforward. I do have a detailed tutorial where it'll kind of walk you through step by step on WordPress, and that's at this URL. I'm not going to go there right now, but if you want to do that, you can. Okay, so this is where we're going to jump into the live tutorials. This will be fun. And see, I have a lot of tabs open up here to try and keep us moving along. But as you can see, I'm in Tag Manager here. I'm going to go to my website, so I'm not messing with anybody else's. And again, it's the same interface that we just looked at. And this is probably the best way to get around over here on this left menu. Most of your time will be spent here with tags. You see I have a lot of different tags on here. And I'm using a naming convention as well. And so what that means is that because I have so many tags, I've organized them in a certain structure that lets me look at them quickly and be able to understand what that tag is doing without having to open it up and really kind of dissect it. What we're going to do here in this particular section is I want to show you guys how to set up analytics on your website with Tag Manager for WordPress. So the idea here is that you have already set up Tag Manager, you've installed it on your WordPress site, and for most people, I think it would be in header.php is where you would add the snippets. Just to show some transparency here, this is my site, and in mine, I don't have access because of my theme. I have to go through the theme panel, and you know, again, just add the snippets are right here. So this is the one for the head, and down here is where I have the other snippet that adds it for the body. So again, it depends on your theme that you're using. Most people are just going to add it in header.php, and again, the tutorial on the site has those detailed steps if you want to look at that. So how to add Google Analytics is very straightforward. I'm going to show you that this is the tag right here for me. What this says to me is that this is Google Analytics. That's why it says GA. It's a page view, so I want to count all the page views. And this particular tag is on all of my pages. So let me walk you through how you can set this up. So whenever you're starting a new tag, you're just going to click on New up here at the top of the tag list. And this is the default tag template that you're given. What's nice about Tag Manager is that it gives you so many predefined tags. You can see there's a lot here. These are analytics tags. These are AdWord tags. There's stuff in here for Google Optimize. And there's a bunch of other tags that are already inside of the tool ready for you to use the moment that you get signed in. So there's a lot here that you can leverage. There are some third-party tools as well that will let you connect from Google Tag Manager to those third-party systems, and they do so as a middleman. I'm not going to get into that tonight, but just understand that there are services out there that do that. And so if you do a quick Google search, with Google Tag Manager connector to whatever third-party system that you want to connect to, there may be a chance that there's a third-party vendor that has sort of built this sort of predefined tag already. So just keep that in mind if you don't see your tag in the predefined list here. So for Google Analytics, what we're going to do is we'll just select the analytics tag up here, the Google Analytics Universal Analytics. And what do you want to track? You want to track page views. And that's what you're going to want to set that to here. And then for this particular, the variable, if you don't have this set up, it's going to walk you through it. It's going to ask you for your analytics ID. And we could take a look at that really quick. We'll just discard the changes. Go to variables. And we'll come down here to Google Analytics settings. You can see really all I did was just put my Google Analytics ID in there. And so it's really that easy. You can get this from inside of Google Analytics. It'll actually link to a tutorial on how to do that. Very, very straightforward. But really all you do, again, click on your tag, add your analytics, the analytics predefined tag, set it to page view, set it to Google Analytics settings, and then you're going to create a trigger. A trigger is a function that tells the tag when to fire. And in this scenario, we want this tag, this Google Analytics tag, to fire on all of our pages. That means whenever the page loads, we want to collect that data, and we want to track it inside of Google Analytics. And so you would save it. You can name the tag if you want to. You can just put GA if you want to, or Google Analytics, whatever you want to do. Again, I use a naming convention because I have a lot of different tags. It just helps me kind of keep things organized and tidy. One of the things that is nice is that you can do folders inside of Tag Manager. So if that's something that you want to leverage, you can do that too. So anytime you're deploying a new tag, you're always going to want to test it. So let's say we created this new Google Analytics tag, and we have it here inside of Tag Manager. One of the things that's really neat about this tool is that you can test things out really quickly. So you see here on submit, the submit button would let me deploy my changes. But let's say I want to test things out before I deploy changes. And I'm sure if you have developer friends or you are a developer, you appreciate this functionality, because we never just want to launch stuff. That's never a good practice. So if you click on preview, you'll see that Tag Manager will go into what's called preview mode. You see here at the top, it says it very, very clearly that you're in preview mode. And if you were to come over here to the site that you're on and you refresh, you'll see now here at the bottom, we have a pane that shows us that we are in Tag Manager preview mode. You see it right here, quick preview. And this is going to show us all the different tags that fired in this instance. You can see our Google Analytics page view tag fired. Now, if this fired, we should be able to see traffic live inside of Google Analytics. And it just so happens that we can check that. So we come over to Analytics. You can see I'm on the same site, my site, and we go into the real-time report. And we go to Overview. Now again, I was on my slides page there. We can see right now, live, there's one user. And that this is the URL that that user is on. So we can tell right now that the tag is working as intended. And in that scenario, we can go back to Tag Manager. We can leave preview mode. We can click the confirmation. And then it would be safe to go ahead and launch. and submit. And you would basically document, you know, what your version name is and what you did. I think that's always a good practice to document. You know, you don't want to go overboard, but try to list things that you did in this update, so you have to have something to refer back to. You can always go to versions, and you can see the different things that that you did previously. You know, remove structured data, Google Ads update, all these different versions. You'll be able to see those notes, and at a later time where you forgot what you did, it would be good to make sure that you save those notes. So let's see. I think that's all I wanted to cover with analytics. Pretty sure. Okay. Next up, I want to show you guys how to do event tracking with Google Analytics. So the first setup that we did was getting Google Analytics onto the website and checking to make sure that we're recording traffic. The next thing that we're going to do is how to do event tracking inside of Google Analytics. So if you're looking to track link clicks, let's say I'm on the site here and I want to see how many people clicked on a certain thing, maybe the contact, maybe we're on the contact form, and I want, or the contact page rather, and I want to see how many people clicked the phone number and made calls to the business. You could do that. You could track link clicks. You could track things like the forms being filled out, a contact form being filled out. Very, very easy to do with Google Tag Manager. So I'll show you how that works. So you come over here to your tags, and I already have some here. So you see a GA, Google Analytics event on the home page, and email sign up. This is an older tag. I did some updates recently, so this tag is probably not useful anymore. I should probably pause that one. This one is a good one. This is on the contact page. Who's filling out the form? Track that. So this is a really good. This is an example of a good tag. And again, the phone number one is as well. But there might be other ones too. There's a lot of different ways that you can track events inside of Tag Manager. And all you do is come in here, start a new tag, make sure it's a Google Analytics tag so that the data gets recorded in there. And in this case, in the track type dropdown, we're going to select event. And you see we have some parameters that we can fill out. I recommend filling these out as best you can, because it helps you when you're looking back at the data to be able to draw some insights from it. Again, you're going to be able to set the analytic. You want to set the analytics to the variable that you set up before, and the triggering is probably the thing that you might have some frustration with and troubleshooting with at first. Google Tag Manager can be very finicky, is I guess the best word I can say, when you're trying to get events right. And it's really about choosing the right conditions. So if you don't have a trigger that you already have set up, and again, triggers are the set of rules when the tag should fire, then what you would do is click on this plus in the upper right hand corner. It's gonna let you create a new trigger. We'll just name it test for now. And when you click on this icon, it'll let you choose a trigger type. Now for events, let's say we wanted to track the phone number. We wanted to track that click. Usually I would set wait for tags to make sure that this trigger waits. And then how you actually make that happen is a little tricky here. So first thing we're going to do is come over to our page, and we have to grab the URL. And we're going to say, oops, I'm going to say enable this trigger when all of these conditions are true. So we want the condition to be a page path, and we want it to contain this slug. So that's going to set the condition up that when you see this page, this particular slug, enable the trigger. And the trigger will fire when the click URL is, I'm just going to grab my tell anchor there, is this. Now you could do equals. That would be okay. I'm just going to keep it as contains. I apologize, it keeps collapsing there. To complete this this trigger, just going to define it as this anchor. Now, if you go to set up a trigger like this and you don't see these options here, it's a good chance that the variable is not enabled. So I'll get into that. I'll show you what that means in just a second. But there's a chance that you might not have the variable enabled. It needs to be enabled for you to see it in the dropdown. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to enable every variable that Google Tag Manager offers you. You could do that. But I typically only keep the variables enabled that I'm using at the time. And again, this is something that if you're trying to do this, like we're trying to do this now, we're trying to set up a tracker for when people click the phone number, there's a good chance that other people have done this as well. So you can go out and find tutorials on how to do specific tracking mechanisms inside of Google Tag Manager and with Google Tag Manager. And Google Tag Manager has a really great support forum that if you don't find a tutorial online, you can go to the support forum, ask a question, and usually you'll get a really good answer. There are lots of people that love responding. So if you are a little lost here or later on you try to set some event tracking up and you can't, it's okay. You're not the first person to do that. You won't be the last, and there are resources available for you. So if we click save, test this trigger out in just a second. So let's say we want to make this, and again, I'm just using some of this data. Some of the inputs here are not for, this is not what I would typically do, but just to kind of demonstrate here. So if we want to track phone number clicks, let's see, category contact, action click, label, phone number. So this means that out of contact options that they have, they clicked on the action that they took is they clicked and they clicked on the phone number. This technically should work. Let's see if it does. So again, what we'll do to see if our work is true is we'll click on preview. All right, we can tell we're in preview mode. Now we have to go back over to the contact page. There we go. Sorry about that. We will give it a refresh. And we can see that Tag Manager has again entered preview mode. And you can see, look at this really quick. We can see there's 6 tags here before we do anything. That's really important. We're going to come back to that. So if we click on this, we should see 7 tags at the bottom. And there we go. So you see my browser is even trying to make the call right there. And we can see that the tag we just tested out is there. Now, proof is in the pudding, so let's go over to analytics. And we can go over here to real time, and we can go to events, and we can see right here, look at that. Event category of contact, we'll click on that. Event label, phone number. So we can see that Google Analytics is tracking the action. And if you like that, you could publish that change, and that would be, your work would pretty much be done. Track that action, and see how it performs for you over time. Okay, so that's event tracking at a very high level. You know what, actually, I'm gonna come back here to variables because I said we would come back there and we didn't. Sorry about that. Okay, so there's a lot of variables inside of Tag Manager. You can see these are the variables that I have enabled. If you wanna add more variables, you just click on configure, and you would check the ones that you want to enable. So you can see down here for clicks, this is really going to be important for your event tracking, the clicks, the click variables. So if you see something that's unchecked, that's when it's not going to be in the drop-down menu. So if you don't see it, there's a good chance that it's just not checked over here. And you just need to enable that variable and then go back to the trigger section. So that is event tracking. And what I wanted to do is just kind of really just briefly touch on conversion tracking. So this is really great for if you're doing Facebook ads, if you're doing Twitter ads, if you're doing Quora ads. Each of those different platforms is going to give you a pixel that you're going to add onto your site. And it's going to give you a couple different options and different ways that you can add that on there. So I run Google Ads. It's nothing crazy. I don't run like a bunch of campaigns or anything. I don't even offer the service to clients because we're strictly SEO. But I do run paid ads for my business. And I do have a conversion tracking set up for AdWords or Google Ads, as I previously called AdWords, now Google Ads. So anytime you're in any of these paid ad systems, it's always going to give you a code to put on your site for tracking. So essentially, you're going to define what the conversion parameters, and then it's going to give you options for how you want to set up that tracking. If you want to install the tag yourself, you can add that. Typically that would go in, again, header.php, or if you're using a plugin, which there are plugins out there. There's a Twitter Pixel plugin, there's a Facebook Pixel plugin. There's a bunch of different plugins that will let you do this stuff. But again, that's the beauty of using Tag Manager, is that you don't have to have a bunch of plugins. You know, just have one installation of Tag Manager and manage all these things inside of the system. You see here, though, it really, even in many of these systems, Facebook ads, Twitter, I think Twitter offers you a Google Tag Manager. It's been a while since I've advertised with them, but I know Facebook does offer an option for how to set up the conversion tracking with Tag Manager. If you click on this, it's going to walk you through how to do that. So if we come over here to Tag Manager, let's say we wanted to start a new AdWords tag, AdWords tracking tag. You can click in here to new tag, click the icon for tag configuration. And right here, this is already a predefined tag phrase. You click on Google Ads conversion tracking. And it's going to walk you through, it's going to present you the different options to fill out. You go back to AdWords, and it's going to give you the different options to fill out. So your conversion ID would go here inside of Tag Manager and so forth. You just fill it out according to the information over in the platform itself, and save your tag. Again, test it and make sure that it works. You can see here for the one I actually have that's installed on my site, it's not very complex. It fires on all the pages, so it's not a complex trigger. And you put your conversion ID in, your conversion label, and that's pretty much it. It's very, very straightforward. So again, when you're setting up digital ads on different platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and so forth, it's going to give you an option to add with Tag Manager. If you're using Tag Manager, I suggest that's the option that you use. Just fill it out, fill out the information accordingly. Sometimes it's going to give you an option to do a custom HTML, and that's something that you can do if you want to. I'll show you how to do that too. So again, you go into tags, go to new, go to the tag configuration icon, click on that, and then what you're going to do is come down to the custom category and click on custom HTML. It's just going to give you a box to fill in. Now you could do this with the platform, the ad platform. You could take the code that it tells you to add to your site. You could copy this and put it right in here into the custom HTML tag. You could save this, and it would function exactly like the AdWords pre-configured tag. It would work the same. You'd have to set up the triggering for all pages, and that would work just fine, but it would serve the same function. So it depends on what the platform offers. If you're working with a platform that's maybe new or emerging, it might not have a pre-configured tag inside of Tag Manager, and then you would have to use the custom HTML option and just add it that way. But I think that's it's a great way to be able to keep these conversion tracking snippets or pixels inside a one-stop shop. And I just think that's just so nice to be able to manage everything right here inside this tool. All right, how are we doing on time? Pretty good, pretty good. Okay. The last one is probably going to be the one that might be maybe the most time intensive. So this is one that is a little bit more technical. It's how to set up structured data with Tag Manager. For those of you who are not familiar with structured data, this is something that a lot of SEOs focus on, because structured data can help generate rich cards inside of Google search results. So I'm on screen share here, so we'll go over here. I had chicken and rice tonight for dinner. And the guys who run the meetup, they can attest to this because I was eating before the meeting started. You can see here, I just did a quick search, and you can see the cards at the top here. We call these rich cards. That's what SEOs will typically refer to these as. And there's a lot of great information here. There's a picture of the recipe. You see a title of it. You see the author, the ratings, how long it takes to make it, and then some ingredients that aren't included there. This is really great for searchers because it helps them make a decision quickly as to what they want to do, if they want to make that recipe, if they want to take some kind of action. This is a great visual way of giving information to people. Really great move on Google's part. I love this. And there's a lot of rich cards that are out there. Just to kind of provide some context, this is the search gallery, and this will be linked later on in the presentation. So you don't have to try and memorize this URL or anything. But there's a lot of different what we'd call features, search features, a rich card, a featured snippet. So if you ask Google a question, you get that box at the top. That's a featured snippet. There's a lot here, right? There's an article. You see the article card, books that'll display. We just saw the recipe one, breadcrumbs that show up, courses, and so forth. So there's a lot of different search features that Google offers, and a lot of that is powered by structured data. So if you add structured data to your website, there's a chance that you could get a featured snippet. And Google kind of talks a little bit about this here, right? It says Google uses structured data to understand the content on your page. Sometimes if you do the structured data correctly and Google feels like the content that you're offering matches the needs of a searcher, it might put that page and that content into a search feature, like a recipe card. So that's really what structured data, that's the value of it, is that you can generate these search features and stand out in search and hopefully get more traffic to your site. I'll share this really quick. This came out last year when this particular case study in this guide talked about how to add the FAQ schema or structured data. You'll see sometimes people use schema and structured data interchangeably. Don't be, it's totally fine. Lots of people do it. But yeah, how to add the FAQ structured data to any page using Google Tag Manager as a guide. And when this particular guide came out, it was kind of controversial at the time because Google had gone on the record saying, do not use Google Tag Manager to add structured data to your website. And this guide came out and it talks about how to add FAQ schema to a website using Google Tag Manager. And what was so controversial about this particular guide was that one of the Googlers who said don't use Google Tag Manager in the past commented on Twitter that it was a really great article. So it was kind of, ironic, and a lot of people were like, wait, what do you mean? You told us not to do that. And so, yeah, so this is again, why we always create our tag, test our tag, then deploy it. So you're always going to want to follow that approach. If you test this and it works, awesome. You're in a good spot. But if you build something, you test it, and you don't see the result that you're looking for, don't do that. So in this tutorial, what I wanted to do was kind of introduce you guys to some tools that will help streamline. I'm gonna actually see if I can tweak this out a little bit, because this top bar is really kind of annoying me at this point. Let's see if I can maybe tweak this size of this window so that we don't have that problem so much. Or maybe not. No, it's giving me trouble. There we go. Oh no. Okay, we'll see what we can do here. We'll see what we can do. Okay, so that's structured data at a very high level. How do you actually take that? How do you build structured data for your site? I'm not going to get too far into the weeds here with structured data, because that's a whole talk in itself. And I've given that talk, so I'm not going to do that here. But what I want to do is kind of give you guys some tools, show you how to plug it into Google Tag Manager, so that if this is something that you want to do in the future, you can come back and reference the slides if you want to. But just wanted to kind of expose you guys to this so that if this is an option that you want to explore, you can do so. So the Merkle structured schema markup generator is a tool that I use a lot. For those of you not familiar with Merkle, they are I think they are global. They're here in the US, but they serve a lot of clients. They're a very large digital marketing company. And they have some fantastic tools here on technicalseo.com. And this is one of the tools that they have out there. And what this does is it helps you build structured data very quickly according to Google standards. So if you were to come over here to any of these search features, like the article card, if you click on this, it's going to tell you information about this search feature and what the structured data needs to look like. And so you need to make sure that when you're adding structured data, you're building it properly and that you're testing it to make sure that it meets Google's standards. And what I love about this Merkle tool is that it lets you build structured data quickly according to Google standards. So going back to that case study and that guide that we talked about on SEMrush's website, how to add FAQ schema with Tag Manager. And just really quick, just because I forgot to show this really quick, I'll show you what the FAQ schema does, or the FAQ structured data does. What it will do for you is if someone looks for, if they enter in a query in search and your FAQ page can answer that searcher's question, and you have FAQ structured data, what that user will see are the answers right inside of search. So they don't even have to go to your website to get the answer. They can just see this accordion element. And for those who don't know what I mean by the accordion, it's just this sort of strip right here. And if you click this arrow, it would drop down the answer. They don't even have to go to the site to get the content. They can just do this right from search. This is good and bad. There are some studies out there that have shown that after implementing this type of structured data, the FAQ, that visits to the site have gone down. But there are also other studies out there that show that people wanted to dive deeper, and because the FAQ rich card was at the top, and rich cards are usually at the top of search results, they clicked through to the site and dove deeper into not only the content, but the actual site itself. So I think it depends on the type of site that you're offering and the type of FAQ that you're offering and so forth. I'm not going to get into any further down that rabbit trail, but I just want to show you like what this experience actually looks like inside of search. And if you wanted to build it with the Merkle tool, you could. You just select what kind of structured data you want to make. In this case, FAQ. You could type in here. Actually, you know what? Let's use I have an example that we could use, because my audits page actually has an FAQ section. Okay, so let's say like, what is an SEO audit? Let's say that's the question we want to do. See, there goes that strip again at the top. go away. There we go. What is an SEO audit? And you can see here too, it's populating the code right over here for me. It's fantastic. I love this tool. Just drop in the answer. And if you wanted to add other questions, you could just click on this little button. But you see it's built the script for me that I can add. And what I could do is I could even validate this. I could test it right here. And it's going to ask me which tool I want to use. Now, the structured data testing tool was probably my favorite for a long time. Google has actually come out, and they very recently actually they said they're deprecating this particular tool. So we're going to go to rich results tests, and this is a test that will tell you whether or not the structured data or the page that you've put in is going to generate rich results like the recipe card and the FAQ card and so forth. So if you click on that, it'll load the tool for you, and it'll populate the code for you. You can just test the code. And it's going to analyze it. And this might take a second or two. And it'll show you, pages eligible for rich results. And you can even preview this. It'll show you, what it might look like. Now, this tool is not perfect. So I'll tell you that right now, this tool is not perfect. This was not the favorited. I don't know if that's the right word. Favored is, I think, what I want to use by a lot of SEOs. Most people liked the structured data testing tool. It did offer you a preview option. The rich results tool is kind of a tool that I think it's kind of in transition right now till they get the structured data testing tool kind of decommissioned. So for me, this kind of stuff sometimes happens. We know what this might look like because of the example that we saw on the search gallery page. So we have somewhat of an idea of what it would look like. But what's really important here is that we are error-free. And that's very, very important. So what we would do is, now that we have our structured data, we've tested it, we know it's good, we know that Google's okay with it, we can come over here to Tag Manager, and we can add it to the page that we want. So let's say we wanted to do, how do I have this set up here? Yep. That's what I thought. Okay. So custom HTML is the tag type that we're going to use. We're going to put this on the SEO audit page, and it's going to be structured data. So that's kind of how I lay my naming convention out, is what kind of tag is it, where does it live, and what does it show, what is it doing? So we'll come down here to the custom HTML tag. You would drop this in, okay, and I'm going to go grab our URL. And I don't have a trigger for this, so I'm going to have to make one. So we're going to make this SEO page. And we are going to make it a page view trigger. So we only want this trigger to be enabled when the page path contains /services/SEO audit. Oh, yes, I already did. Did I have that one? Oh, I do. Oh, okay. I must have been prepping for this call and just forgot to take that off. So yeah, so essentially this particular trigger, you could see the page path, it just contains the slug there. So what we'll do is we'll save this. Oh. Why is it not? Uh-oh. Hopefully we did that okay. Let's see. We'll give this a refresh really quick, so it was acting a little funky there. Usually if you save it, it collapses it and makes it go away. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so it is there. Okay, great. So we'll go into preview mode. And again, we just want to test this out to make sure it works. We can see preview mode is activated. Come over here to our page, give it a refresh. Okay, we can see that the preview is down here, or the preview mode pane is down here. And we see that that tag fired. So that's great. That means that the tag is working as intended. And eventually, once Google comes back and crawls this page, it would then be able to store that structured data inside of the index. And hopefully people that are looking for information about SEO audits on my site would be able to see the FAQ card for those different questions that are on the site. These ones right down here. Again, I would have to build structured data for those each of those questions. Right now in this example, I only put one. So you would have to make sure that you build the structured data for each question. But as long as you did that, they would be able to see a rich card like this. And that is really, again, I know that if you're not familiar with structured data, that probably sounded maybe a little technical, but for someone that's comfortable with Tag Manager, this is really, it makes it so much easier. So I really like it for that functionality and that ability to be able to do that. Okay, well that kind of wraps up the tutorial section. Again, what I wanted to do was just really kind of touch again on the workflow that I use. I think it's really important that that people use this workflow. Create your tag, test your tag, deploy your tag, and then monitor your tag's functionality. Now, sometimes you can do this with different tools. If you're using, for example, structured data, like we just talked about, you would use Google Search Console because that is where Google will tell you if there's problems with your structured data. In the enhancement section, they'll tell you if there's a problem with your markup, if you've done it wrong or whatever. But if you have already done the testing, you should not have errors popping up. But if you did, that's where they would be. With Facebook, if you're launching a Facebook pixel or a Twitter pixel, you would just, again, let your campaign run for a little bit after you have added the pixel through Tag Manager, and just go back and make sure that your conversions are being recorded. You always want to make sure you're going back and monitoring to make sure that the functionality is working as intended. Okay, so I'm going to tackle a couple of FAQs really quick. I'm going to breeze through these and then we'll open it up for questions. Okay, so are Google Tag Manager tags and WordPress tags the same? I was asked this question the last time I presented this talk, and just to the point, short and to the point, no, they are not the same. WordPress tags are used totally differently than Google Tag Manager tags. They live in different systems. Many times they do different, they serve different purposes. So they are not the same kinds of tags. And yeah, that's all I really have to say about that one. Okay, can you have too many Google Tag Manager tags? And I think it depends. If you have Tag Manager tags that start impacting your website performance, the answer may be yes. And so I'll share a story really quick as I load this up. I was doing an optimization project last year, and I hired a developer friend of mine to come in and optimize my site. I was really low on PageSpeed Insights. Google's PageSpeed Insights tool was grading my page low in a score. And for those of you that don't know, even though your site loads fast on your phone or your desktop, that tool is how Google interprets your website. So even though it might load fast, it's still scored, and that is how Google interprets it. So it's just my SEO disclaimer there. So you want to pay attention to that score. And we were having real trouble. And you know, he did a deep dive into the tags that were taking the longest to load, the different resources that were loading on the site. And what I found was that this Quora tag was taking forever to load. I don't know why. You know, we couldn't really figure out exactly what it was. But you can see I have a pause right here. And what I did is you can pause different tags in Tag Manager. And basically, instead of deleting this, I can just pause it, and that way it doesn't load. And in that regard, that really helped me out a lot. I shaved off maybe 0.6 seconds or something like that load time with just taking this tag off. So that was a big win for me. And so, can you have too many tags? It depends. If you see that, if you have a lot of different campaigns running at once, it means that a lot of different tags are going to load, and a lot of different pixels are going to load. And you have to pay attention to how that's affecting your performance. Can you overtrack events? Absolutely. when you're tracking things, you want to make sure that you're tracking things that matter. You know, make sure that you can make that value obvious to a client or even on your own website, right? I don't have, I showed the example of the phone, right? The click, you know, tracking how many people click the phone number, but do I really care about how many times people click my phone number? No, I just care about making sure I can close that client when they call. That's what's important to me and to my business. And so you want to make sure that if you're tracking things, you want to make sure that you're tracking things that are valuable to the client or to the organization that you work for, or to the website that to the webmaster that of the website that you're working on. Maybe you're in an organization where it is very important that newsletter signups are captured. And so you might record that, and that's definitely important. I think that's a really great way to show value. Or other things that maybe downloads, maybe you have a white paper that you're trying to track downloads on, because that's a lead generator for your website. Things like that, the value is obvious. But something is, you know, sort of nebulous, like a phone number click, and it's hard to quantify the value there and why we're even doing that. So don't try to track everything. If you're going to track something, make sure the value is very, very obvious and that you can explain it to a client easily. And the last question is, will GTM work if I forget to publish? No, it won't. So if you go through the hard work of setting up, 10 FAQs and structured data, and you go and you test that tag out, and it looks all good and error-free, and you go and you drag that HTML over to the custom HTML tag, and you save that tag, and you go out of preview mode because you tested it and it's good, but you forget to publish. Google's going to come back to that page, and it's not going to crawl your structured data because it's not published yet. So you have to make sure that after you create and test your tag, you publish the container. Otherwise, it's all for naught. So on the other side of that, just as an aside, you can publish and leave Tag Manager in preview mode. That's fine. The structured data will work fine. Your tags should work fine. Obviously, you have that little pane at the bottom of your browser, which can get annoying. But if you're in preview mode, it's totally fine, as long as you've published the container. Okay. So I'll take questions in just a sec. But again, this is the link for the slides. Again, just go to the page, scroll down. You'll see. I think it's the last one in the list. But yeah, so additional resources, and again, these are in the slide, so you might want to go there. The Merkle structured data generator that we looked at is the link for it. The rich results testing tool, you have a link for that here. And then the Google search gallery. So if you're looking to expand your search features, you can go there and take a look at what's available. If you want to find me, again, you know where the URL is. If you want to follow me on Twitter, or if you want to email me, that's fine too. But yeah, I guess we'll open it up for questions. And I saw a couple of bleeps going through. So let me go back over here, stop share. I saw a couple of things come through in the Q&A. Here we go. Okay, what is I'll try to answer these how I see them in the queue. Eileen asks, what is the advantage of using Google tags to connect your site to GA instead of just using a GA snippet directly in WordPress? This is a fantastic question. I love it. Yeah, so if you are a person who is going to be using Google Analytics and Google Analytics only, and not a bunch of other systems, then the approach of just adding Google Analytics onto your WordPress website is perfectly fine. I think that's okay. If you are, what I recommend to clients always is that they have an integrated digital marketing approach. What that means is that they're spending some money on, oh, sorry, I saw something pop up here. If they're spending, they should be spending some money on social, investing in just making sure that they're posting things on social. they should be doing some SEO, they should be doing some PPC. And so for me, I try to make sure that all the different channels are hit and that they are finding out which channel is most effective for them and that they're investing in that channel. But you got to be able to track those things. So this is where Google Tag Manager can really come in and track the effectiveness of those different channels with pixels and so forth. So for me, I feel like if you're not doing those things, then sure, you can add Google Analytics straight to WordPress and that's fine. But I think if you're going to be scaling your digital marketing activities, I think Google Tag Manager just makes a whole lot more sense. Okay, can you set tags for GA goals or are they always events? So goal is specific to GA. It has nothing to do with Tag Manager. So you can set up goals inside of Google Analytics, but you want to be able to set up goals inside of Google Tag Manager. You can track events, and events might be tied to goals, but you can't set up goals inside of Tag Manager and have them translate over. Okay, what steps did you take to see what tags were active on the contact when you clicked on the phone number? What steps did I take to see which tags were active? Oh, okay. Yeah, let me show what I did there. Let me minimize this, share this. Okay, so yeah, okay. So this is the test tag that we created, phone number clicks. So to see whether or not it's working, you're going to click on preview to enter preview mode. All right. And we want to make sure that we're looking for the tag name. So in this case, it's phone number clicks. Now you can make this whatever you want, but you want to make sure that whatever you name your tag, that's the tag you're looking for when you're on your site and in preview mode. So we come over here, we click refresh. All right. So we still have our pane at the bottom. We're going to go to contact. And you can see down here at the bottom, there's a lot of tags that have fired, but we do not see the phone number one. And that's only going to happen if we go down here, excuse me, and we click on the number. And now we can see phone number clicks showed right here. And that's always going to be the tag name. You can see these are all tag names. And so whatever the tag name is over here in Tag Manager, that's what you're going to want to look for to make sure that it worked. And again, if you come over here to Google Analytics, you want to go to the real-time report, and you want to go to events and see if the event actually got tracked. And you want to make sure you check the labels too, like the metadata, like the label and the action and the category. We want to make sure those are correct. If they're not, you can always go into the tag and edit it, right? You can go in here and you can change the metadata here to whatever you need it to be. So you might have to play around with it a little bit to get it right, but that's how you would test that out. Okay. How do you go into preview? Oh, we just actually did that. That's a good one. Okay. How can you have FAQ structured data on multiple pages within a website? Fantastic question. Yes. And you can also have multiple structured data on a page. For example, I might have a contact page that has FAQs on it, also has a phone number on it, and also has a contact form on it. So potentially there's a couple of different things that could be going on there. You could put what's called organization structured data on there. I'm sorry, I'm getting confused with the last one. I apologize. Let's say that a contact page has FAQ structured data on it. It has information about your business. And let's see. Yeah, let's just go with that. So let's say there's information about your business and there is FAQs on there. You could go with FAQ structured data, and depending, you could go with organizational structured data, which is sometimes if you query a company in Google, you'll see the knowledge panel on the right. I'll share my screen really quick so you guys can know what I'm talking about. I'll show you a great example. A company that I use to manage all of my SEO campaigns is Moz. And you can see when I type in Moz in Google, I see this knowledge panel on the right that kind of gives me some information. And it's generating this information right here that I've highlighted with structured data, the organizational structured data. You know, most people will put that information on the about page, but if you want to put it on the contact page, or if it was on the contact page, technically you could put organization structured data on there as well as FAQ data. If you have FAQs on a blog post, you could use article structured data and FAQ structured data. So you can put multiple structured data on a given page in your site. Okay. And last one, Joe asks, what are GTM tags, pixels, and why do you want to use them? What value do they bring? Great question. Great question, Joe. When I'm building a campaign for a client, or when I'm going in and I'm doing like a one-time only WordPress SEO setup for a client, that kind of project. One of the things we always do is make sure that tracking tools are in place. So if I am, even with the one-time project, I'm always going to make sure I set up Search Console, Analytics, Tag Manager on their website. And the reason that that's so important is that they're able to track their efforts. If you are spending time paying or spending time and money paying for a blogger to write content for your site, you want to make sure that you're having a return on investment. If you don't have analytics set up, you're not going to be able to have that insight. You're not going to be able to know whether or not what they're doing is effective. If you want to take those pieces of content that the blogger is writing for you and then promote them through Twitter ads or Facebook ads or what have you, if you don't have a pixel, then you're not going to be able to have any kind of insight into whether or not that's being effective or not. And just so you know what a pixel, how a pixel works, essentially is it's a snippet of code, and we showed this earlier, but it's a snippet of code that you put on your site that tells that platform, so like Facebook or Twitter, for example, yes, this is the website. This is my verification ID. Make sure that any traffic that's sent to this website, yours, from the ad is recorded, and that you capture the information about that user that is legal and pertinent and all that fun stuff, so that you as a marketer can make better decisions next time when you're running a campaign. So in order to get that information, right, you wrote an article on the 5 best strollers for 2020. You're going to target moms that are in their 30s probably, and you want to see how effective that is. You have to have some way to do that, and Facebook has to know, I'm sending traffic to this site. How do I know that it's really you? It uses the pixel, and that lets Facebook track all that information, and other platforms, other ad platforms. So that's really what a pixel is about. Okay, does this translate okay from a development site to a production site? Boy, that is a really good question. I don't know that I've ever used Google Tag Manager on a pre-production site. I don't think I have, and I don't think it would work. And the reason I don't think it would work is because most of the pre-production sites I've worked on have always been behind a password. So I don't think that would work. Because I'm just trying to think, like, maybe it would work. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. It's been actually, to be honest, it's been a long time. It's probably been a year and a half since I actually did that. Yeah, because usually Tag Manager just doesn't take much time at all. So I'm usually just setting it up right after it goes live. I did do it probably about a year and a half ago at the one agency I was working on. We would always spin sites up in Flywheel pre-production and then roll them live, and we would set everything up beforehand. Google can't get to, like, Googlebot that Google uses for Google search can't get behind passwords, but because Tag Manager uses the browser, it might be okay. I'd have to check that.
Jack also, he has a follow-up question to that.
Oh, okay.
Follow-up statement to that to clarify what he's asking.
Setting it up and the migrating is okay. I think it would be okay. I think that's fine. I think once it rolls live, you should be okay. Yeah. Is there a tag for retargeting? Yes, there is. Yes, there is. I'll show you really quick. And I think we'll probably wrap it up there because I think we're going a little long here. So I apologize about that.
I actually have one question after
Oh,
this
yeah.
too. Sure.
Okay.
But
Yeah, so you can come into Tag Manager here, go to your tag configuration, and you'll see the Google Ads remarketing right there. I think that's what you're asking me about Google Ads, because that's how you would remarket with that platform. I don't have that set up because I don't have that traffic yet. I don't have thousands of people coming to my site quite yet, so I'm not there. But yeah, there is definitely a tag for it. Yeah, go ahead. What's your question?
Sure. So my question is, in the beginning of your talk, before you started diving into the actual tags itself, you showed like the snippets of code that you have to add.
Sure.
For a lot of people, that even that might be discouraging because they might not want to actually mess with their theme files. They might not know where to put it. They might not understand that. Could you recommend a plugin that even simplifies something like that? Does one exist where it maybe says, look at this part of the snippet, pass that, because it's usually just like an ID of some sort. It's the same bit of code. And I'm curious if there is a plugin that just, makes it super, super simple, if there's one that you recommend.
Yeah. There is. Let me share my screen again. There is a plugin that I used to use a long time ago, and I just want to say really quick. I will definitely validate that concern because there are a lot of people when I go and give talks at meetups or WordCamps or whatever. There's a lot of people that are very new to WordPress, or even seasoned people that are just like, I don't want to mess things up, right? I don't want to go into header.php, delete a line of code, and then jack my whole site up. I can appreciate that concern. I really can. I think, if you can get to a place where you're comfortable going in there, I think that's ideal. To be transparent, in my opinion, I think that's ideal. Having said that, I understand the concern of not wanting to mess something up and whatnot. So, and always, if before you install Google Tag Manager, always make sure you back up your site. Always do that. But yeah, so for plugin options, this is a plugin that Google Tag Manager for WordPress in the repository. Actually copy this and I'll throw it in the chat here really quick. If I can get to it. No, I can't get to the chat. I can't get to it. I'll come back and I'll paste it in there. This particular plugin, I don't know. So it was updated 5 months ago. So maybe this plugin was updated when I tried using it. It did not put the snippet in the right place. And so I had trouble getting, let me clarify. The reason that I love, one of the other reasons, I didn't want to get too far into this tonight because, but I will, because this question was asked. One of the reasons I love Tag Manager as well is because it lets me integrate with other systems easily. So I can get Tag Manager on a site, and then I can get analytics on the site very, very quickly. But because I have Tag Manager on the site, it also lets me authenticate with Google Search Console. So I can go into Google Search Console, plug in a URL and say, it's going to say, how do you want to verify? I can click on Tag Manager as an option. It'll see the tag and it'll verify me very quickly. So this is another benefit of it. But what was happening with this plugin when I was using it is that it wasn't putting it in the right place. And so I could use Tag Manager, but it wouldn't authenticate Search Console. It put it too far down, I think, in the head. And Google Search Console was having a real hard time seeing it. Maybe this plugin has fixed that. Yeah, as I said, it
probably has to put a priority higher on WP Head, maybe put it at 1 or 0 or something like that.
So that was a challenge I had, but that was like three years ago. So it was a long time ago. I'm sure it's probably much better. But yeah, this is probably the most popular Google Tag Manager plugin. So if you want to go the plugin route, that's fine. You could do that with this plugin.
Can you paste that URL in the chat if you haven't yet, just
Yep.
so other people can quickly get to it?
There you go.
Perfect.
Yep. Great question.